Let me express my gratitude to the Polish Ministry of Economic Development for co-hosting this event, and especially to Aleksander Siemaszko, the Deputy Director in the Department of International Trade, and Łucja Sromecka, the Deputy Director in the Department of Investments. Also, many thanks to Kasia Rybka-Iwanska and Jarek Ćwikłapowicz for organizing and coordinating the preparations for this meeting. A technical suggestion: after the presentation, we are ready to take questions from the audience. You can send them through our chat room, which will be, I believe, most convenient. But of course, if you want to ask questions afterwards on screen, you are most welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, just a few words for the sake of clarity and explanation. The very idea of the webinar popped up when we realized to what extent both Polish and Israeli investors may be anxious about the economic impact of the current pandemic and its consequences for the business relations between our countries. As you probably know, it is one of the priorities and primary tasks of the Polish Embassy in Tel Aviv to promote and foster Polish-Israeli economic ties, which is pretty complicated nowadays. That's why we prefer to talk about the post-pandemic future. Fortunately, the Polish economy seems to be relatively resilient. Of course, it's been hit quite severely as a result of a protracted lockdown and various restrictions imposed on businesses, but not as harshly as other European economies. Hopefully, we will soon rebound and Poland will remain one of the most attractive destinations for foreign investors. So, this is what we are going to talk about today. Our colleagues from the Ministry of Economic Development will now elaborate on the subject and show us some intriguing charts about the performance of the Polish economy in times of the pandemic. Mr. Siemaszko, the screen is all yours.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you again for organizing this little webinar. And I'd also like to thank the whole team of the Polish Embassy in Israel for doing a great job getting us together. I'll try to paint a rather comprehensive picture of Polish economy in 2020 and years to come, while being as frank or brutally honest as we should be, because this is the basis of any proper analysis and forecasting. And my frankness is facilitated by the, as you said, relatively good performance of Polish economy this year. Thank you very much. I hope you can all see that presentation and the beautiful picture also there. And I'll jump straight to the data. So obviously Poland entered 2020 after 30 years of uninterrupted growth that outpaced the European average or even CE average by far. Obviously, as you can see here, in some years we've grown faster, even reaching 7.9% in some years. In some years we've grown slower, while being affected by global crisis, but until this year, we have not entered any technical recession since our move to the market economy. That was driven by many factors: a robust domestic market, robust public investments, partially driven by EU funds, but also private investments, fast-growing exports, not only in goods but also in services, which is quite often overlooked, and a deep integration to the European markets, but also a growing presence in elsewhere, mainly in Asia, Middle East, and North America, but obviously not limited to. So we enter 2020 after a few years of robust growth of wages, increase of R&D expenditures, and a vast array of measures that were intended to help us introduce a qualitative leap of our economy to avoid an middle income traps and move Poland into the best performing economies in the world. Now, obviously, this year has passed somewhat differently than we all expected, and it should come as no surprise that we have entered 2020, especially the second quarter of 2020, encountering major difficulties. We forecasted that our economy will grow around 3.2% this year, with the growth continuing in the next few years. What we observe now in reality is a relative decline, concentrated especially in the second quarter. Now, as you can see from the data here, our GDP has dropped by 8.2% in the second quarter of 2020. Now, this data is both a bit misleading and but also at the same time quite positive. Misleading in the sense that the GDP drop was mostly concentrated in March and April. These were the months in which the top-down measures of lockdown, closing not only the Polish economy but also the economy of our neighbours, the EU single market, introducing border controls and basically preventing free flow of goods and services, and drastically reducing domestic consumptions were introduced. And with this gradual easing of these restrictions, the economy has gotten back on tracks. May was a transitional month, but if we look at June and compare June annually, actually, we have experienced a very slight but nonetheless hopeful GDP growth. This growth was especially visible in the export sector, and especially if we compare it month to month with double decimals growth when it comes to exportation of goods and services in June compared to May. Now, this trend continues in the next months, meaning July, and hopefully it will continue in August, which is reflected in changes in economic forecast. So initially we were expected to decline by around, depending on the forecast, from 3.5% to 4.6% of GDP. But the most recent forecast by private banks suggests a smaller retraction of the economy, around 2.5%, which means that it will probably be the most shallow recession in the whole EU. We do bid for this economic championship with some other countries in our region, notably Lithuania, Finland, but also other Visegrad countries. But nonetheless, this shows a clear robustness of Polish economy, and the growth prospects are also good, with around 4 to 4.5% of GDP growth predicted in 2021. Now, to be perfectly frank, this growth will be relatively slower than in some other EU countries who experienced who will experience much deeper recession in 2020. But this is obviously driven by technical ways of measuring GDP relative to the annual performance of the last year. So the deeper recession this year, the easier the growth can be induced in 2021. But we're actually on the track to go back to the growth focus previously expected, and the economy will improve its relative performance to other actors in the area and in the European Union. Now, obviously, the main question that we can ask is how that happened, and who can we praise or blame for this performance. As I said before, the recession is something that we have not experienced in free market circumstances. So every measure taken by the government in 2020 was of unprecedented nature. We have introduced and did so rather rapidly an anti-crisis shield that were meant to protect businesses, to protect the performance of business and avoid a downward spiral of recession in which the more businesses go bankrupt, the more people are laid off, the more unemployment grows, the deeper the recession, the less the general population is prone to consume and buy goods and services, thus leading to this downward cycle of recession and debt and poverty. Now, our main goal was to avoid that. Hence, we introduced a sort of bridging measures that envisaged to help businesses withstand the pandemic economic storm of the first half of 2020. Now, these measures encompassed solutions to support continuous employment, co-financing of employment in the private sector, social security contributions, breaks for entrepreneurs and the micro and small and medium enterprises, intermediary loans, and other measures envisaged as protecting the workforce and employee safety, the continuous emphasis on public investment, and the unprecedented measures not only introduced by our budgetary measures conducted by state, but also by the apparatus of the Polish Development Fund, a quasi-private, quasi-state institution that is envisaged as a vehicle for our economy that can invest and help every kind of enterprise, from SMEs to large enterprises, with tailor-made measures of financing, of credit guarantees, of know-how support to withstand this crisis. Now, these measures are envisaged at around 312 billion zloty, both when it comes to the anti-crisis shield, which is around 212 billion zloty, and so-called financial shield with 100 billion zloty. So far, we have the support paid for companies operating in Poland has exceeded 130 billion zloty, mainly through social security breaks, but also salary co-financing, credit guarantees, bridging loans, and every type of financing that is needed for a company to stay afloat. That was our clear goal. That's what we wanted. We wanted to avoid desolate streets and close down businesses. And I can confidently say that, given that the number of new companies actually started exceeds the number of companies that were closed, I think we achieved this goal so far. Now, everything I say should be put into brackets when it comes to any type of forecasting, because all we do is conduct it on the assumptions that the possible second wave of pandemic won't go under control. I think that every public policy right now is conducted in a similar manner everywhere in the world. And so the pro-business, pro-private sector measures also accompanied by strict sanitary reforms and sanitary standards introduced by the Ministry of Health, which include a number of purely sanitary measures, but also restrictions on movement and some temporary modifications of functioning of Polish health system, including the dedication of certain hospitals purely for COVID-19 treatment. So unless we get the health situation under control, and I think we are on the path to do so, we cannot conduct any forecast economically with absolute certainty. But hopefully, hopefully on a path, the whole of Central Europe actually is on a path to withstand this pandemic relatively better than some of our peers elsewhere do. Moving forward into some details of Financial Shield, which is the support program worth around 100 billion zloty aimed at micro and small SMEs. As I said, the primary aim is to provide financial liquidity and help companies stay afloat. Obviously, I can provide more details later. The whole Ministry of Economic Development is always open to questions from entrepreneurs, either directly through us or through the Polish Development Fund channels. When it comes to the way forward, because I have spoken about the shield so far, so the temporary measures aimed at avoiding economic catastrophe. But if we want to spur growth in the future, if we want to go back to the path of growth that we've been on, we need measures that will help bring confidence back into the economy and will bring back confidence to consumers. So obviously, this is something that cannot be done purely at a national level. And Poland has been working closely with other EU member states on the Next Generation EU instrument, which was adopted quite recently, and which will empower the European institutions with a massive 1.85 trillion euro budget within the larger framework of multi-annual financial framework of the EU, aimed at preparing EU for the economic challenges of 21st century. Now, the Next Generation EU program is, in rough terms, set on two strategic pillars of digitalization or digital transformation of the European economy and the green transformation of the European economy. And this EU-wide program will be supplemented by national recovery programs. And we are currently working our own national recovery program that will focus on seven pillars. There are currently 7 groups working on energy and climate, transportation, society, infrastructure, digital transformation, innovation, and territorial cohesion, in order to ensure that there is a clear signal sent to the market that these are the areas in which both Polish government and the EU funds will flow into helping us develop the crucial skills, infrastructure, funding investments in these areas to ensure that we actually don't go back to business as usual, but promote a greener, more emission-friendly economy, one that relies stronger on advanced skills of the labor force rather than just their wage advantage to compete in global markets, and one that actually ensures proper territorial cohesion and transportation policy. Because if there's one thing that we've learned during this pandemic is that relying overly heavily on huge urban concentrations of workforce is a potential black swan that might result in adverse effects in the future. We want to promote a more sustainable economy that benefits not only the the better off areas, cities, and most advanced regions, but actually encourages sustainable development and sustainable transportation, distance working, and use of digital tools to ensure that high quality, well-paying jobs in advanced sectors are created everywhere in Poland, including the less well-off regions in the east and in the north. These national recovery programs will be submitted to the European Commission, and in the upcoming months they will be discussed extensively, and hopefully in 2021 the first public investments in these areas will be possible to be launched soon. That was the general picture of Polish economy in a wider EU context. Obviously, if there will be any questions, I'll be happy to answer when it comes to our outlook, our expectations, and our own soul searching when it comes to answering the question why we have fared relatively better than some of our neighbours did and the average of the EU. But I also want to dwell shortly on what it means for Polish-Israeli economic cooperation, which obviously is a dynamic one, and one that focuses on advanced, forward-looking sectors. Now, this cooperation fluctuates from year to year. There is no clear trend when it comes to growth or a fall of our mutual turnover. 2019 was a bit more difficult than 2018, but the overall balance remains positive, as well as the general shape of our trade relations do, meaning that both countries, both economies, specialize in mutual trade when it comes to advanced exports of advanced goods and services, chemical, electrical, mechanical goods, but also advanced agri-food products, cosmetics, and IT services. And it is safe to assume that actually these sectors, perhaps apart from the electromechanical devices, which may be hit a bit harder by the current fall in consumption and production, will remain relatively unscathed by the COVID-19 crisis. We've actually seen Polish agri-food exports grow in 2020. I think we can attribute that to changes in patterns of value chains and sorts of relocalization of certain trade patterns. We also seen that a number of exportations in medical devices, biochemistry, biochemical goods, and cosmetics have also remained steady and positive. Obviously, when it comes to IT services, the rapid and radical digitalization of private and public sectors, which we'll experience right now, has driven the revenue of these companies massively. And these are the three sectors that I think, given the changing nature of contemporary economy, but also given the general direction of public, national and European investments to come, are the most promising in the future. I strongly encourage Israeli entrepreneurs to tap into the chance offered by the European Next Generation EU program and the European Recovery Instrument, but also the comprehensive approach to national recovery instruments that concentrate on the 7 aforementioned areas, and will be reflected in the sectors which will offer good returns in the future. it would be hard to talk about Polish-Israeli cooperation without mentioning our V4 Visegrad Group presidency. Now, for those who are not aware, Visegrad Group is an intergovernmental form of cooperation between Poland, Czech Republic, or Czechia right now, Slovakia and Hungary, and it is one of those most robust regional groupings in the whole of the EU. And come July, Poland has begun its presidency, an annual, so year-long presidency until the end of June 2021 in the V4 group, with our objectives focusing on the general return to normalcy, and normalcy, and here is understood both in social, health, but also economic terms. And we want to focus on the development of the digital sector, especially AI, which we feel that will be of growing importance. And Central Europe is a region that encounters particular challenges in AI, given that most of AI processing is done in natural languages, and neither Hungarian nor Slavic languages, and I think that might be the same case for Hebrew, are that widely used and that's easily applicable to AI situations. We are looking forward for measures that will help us move forward with natural language processing in AI, but also getting back to normalcy in such vital economic sectors as automotive and general manufacturing. We have to understand that V4, not only Poland, every country in Central Europe is deeply integrated into global and regional value chains in advanced manufacturing in Germany and other European partners, and hence the possible implication of COVID-19 for health for our main economic partners is of concern for the whole of the V4 group. Now, the V4 group has a long-standing tradition of cooperation in Israel, relatively long-standing since 2018. We have identified together the main potential areas of cooperation. That is obviously the innovation and IT sectors. There's a V4 Innovators in Israel program aimed at helping startups expand the market potential and sort of scale up and offer ready-made products for the market. That includes training, guidance, counseling from both sides. Obviously, for us, the reputation of Israel as an IT and innovation powerhouse, not only regionally but also globally, is of utmost importance, and we value this cooperation very much. We're now in the second edition of this program, and well, the original session was planned in May 2020 in Israel. Given the current limitations to travel and sanitary restrictions, we're currently working on with both the Israeli government and through our embassies at establishing new forms of potential cooperation, whether we are looking into the improvement of sanitary conditions in the future or for digital formats. That is up to, that will be decided soon, but there is a strong determination on both sides to continue this program and to build on the success and lessons learned from the first edition. Obviously, that has a very strong positive economic impact, but also, I think, an undervalued social influence of bringing young, creative minds together from far countries and perhaps even showing the other side of either Israel or V4 countries that was previously unknown to the participants. that is basically all. I hope that was comprehensive enough to encourage your curiosity, and we're open for any questions that you may have to ask either now or obviously you can always contact us through email, and we'll be happy to provide any info that we may be of service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Director. It was very intriguing and encouraging indeed. Without further ado, Mrs. Sromecka, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Just give me a few moments. I will start my presentation. Okay, thank you. I'm ready for this. Today, I would like to talk a little about our pro-investment initiative in Poland in the post-pandemic times, maybe to encourage you to invest your business, your money in Poland. And sorry for this. Okay, Aleksander already explained to you how our counter-attack the effects of pandemic plan works, because still is. And those are two the basic shields which we have to, as I said, counterattack the effect of the pandemic. I'm not going to repeat it, but I would like to focus on the fact that thanks to this support, our economy, our employers had the possibility to survive. And it was very crucial for our market, for our also labor market to survive. And despite the pandemic, we are ready to encourage you to make a decision on a new project, because we strongly believe that the investment, not only huge public investments, but also your as a private investor, your investment can be the perfect response for the recession. We are trying to implement since 2015 coherent, systematic pro-investment policy, and we would like to transform our economy from imitation to innovation. And that is why Israel and Israeli investors are so important and so vulnerable for us, because we would like to, we know that you are one of the most creative and innovative country in the world. So we would like to use it also for our economy to be a kind of leverage to our economy. Why Poland? If you are an investor, you probably think why Poland is the best place to invest. So first of all, that's the location, because it is central location in Europe, and it is large domestic market, but not only one of the biggest in Europe, but also in the world. And it is a great country to have an access both to East and West countries in the region. So you can think about it. And of course, we've got young and well-educated workforce. So it can be also advantages for us if you choose Poland. I'm not very well at this, sorry. Okay. Okay, thank you. Besides that, our infrastructure is also a huge advantage, and you've got easy access to roads, sea, railway, and airport when you invest in Poland. But also very important for us is business-friendly environment and attractive system of incentives. Please let me show you. Yeah, we've got we've got two legs of our support system. One is tax breaks and the other is cash support. And when you decide to invest in Poland, you can have the opportunity to use all of these incentives. So you can be an investor in our special economic zone and have the CIT exemption, but also you can receive a grant from the Polish program of support of significant importance to the Polish economy. So you've got the opportunity to use not only exemption, but also a grant, which is a terrific idea to invest here. But our support system is changing and is improving all the time. And the pandemic times show us that we need to change it, because it should be more encouraged for those who didn't even think about invest in those times. So we've decided to do some changes. In it. Okay, that's the last one. Okay, this is okay. And we've decided to modify our system. So first of all, we did some changes in the Polish investment zones, and this is not the instrument which is only for those big investors who have plenty of money, but also for those smaller, for medium and small enterprises. If they want to come, they've got this opportunity. The other facilitation was in the program, in our cash grant program. You can see it in the center circle. There is also facilitation for simplification for those who would like to do their business in Poland, and it's also for those smaller companies which would like to invest here. The new idea in our support system is the status of strategic investor. That is for those big companies, because the status gave the possibility to simplify the administration path of many procedures for entrepreneurs, and we cooperate with Polish Trade and Investment Agency to help this biggest company to do the business in Poland. Another idea was creation of strategic investment parks, but this is the new act. We are still working on it, so I'm not able to tell you all the details, but there is a possibility to create such an investment park for many investors. And also interesting idea, which is kind of response to a pandemic recession, is the Estonian corporate tax. It is a new tax in our fiscal system, which give the possibility of deferring the payment of CIT dividends are paid. So you can keep the money for your develop and after that pay the tax. But this is the new solution, which is still working on Ministry of Finance. That's more or less our new approach to investor. There are, of course, general view about the system. If you got some specific question, I'm ready to answer, or you can contact me by my email. You can see it on screen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As you can see, the Polish economy remains robust, and nothing has changed actually, in spite of the fact that the pandemic has hit all of us, all European economies quite harshly. But Poland, as I said before, Poland seems to be quite resilient in this respect. There is one question which appeared in our chat room, whether we will send out the presentations that you have had the opportunity to see right now. Yes, we're going to send it to all participants of this meeting. If you don't mind, if you have any more questions to our dear guests or to the Polish Embassy, please, it's time to ask them. Anyone? I believe the presentations would be very, not only intriguing, but full and satisfying, and this is what has happened today. I like this kind of meetings, where there is no necessity to ask any additional questions. So thank you very much again to Director Siemaszko and to Director Sromecka. Thank you very much to all participants of our meeting, and I do hope that, I don't know, of course, because I'm not a prophet, when the pandemic will finally die away, but it must happen one day or another. Then maybe we'll have the opportunity to meet again, maybe in person, maybe in Tel Aviv, maybe in Warsaw. Mr. Siemaszko and Mrs. Sromecka are both most welcome to this beautiful country, and I do believe that our economic ties will thrive even before the pandemic officially ends. Okay, thanks a lot again, and have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.